What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake and Kyle back in the mix. I had to say something funny right before we started just to make Kyle laugh, but we're talking rankings again, Kyle. We started off with quarterbacks. We're going all the way through running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends here throughout the weekend. It's the middle of May. Don't get butthurt over rankings. We got to establish that baseline. We talked about that in all of our rankings videos, right? It's May. We have time to make adjustments. So by the time August comes around and you're actually drafting, you have a solid set of rankings to use. But Kyle, today we're talking about them ball carriers, the running backs.
Carrying all sorts of balls all
Everywhere.
over the place. Scoring balls, catching balls, running balls, lots of balls.
I guess we should plug Manscaped here. And I'm just kidding. No, I'm not going to do that yet. But hey, let's go ahead and start off. What do you want to do, Kyle? Should we build anticipation and start at 25? Or should we just start at number 1? What do you want to do? I'll let you decide right now.
I was ready to start at number 1, but if we want to build anticipation, this is Jake catching me off guard right now. So
yeah, exactly. I like to just throw things out there because I know he wasn't prepared for that question. All right, we'll start off here at number 1 because we immediately disagree right off the bat.
Not too much.
Not too much, no. Only by one spot.
A little flip-flop.
Yeah, we have 1 and 2 flopped, right? I have Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook at 1 and 2. You have Dalvin Cook at number 1 and Christian McCaffrey at number 2. Personally, I got CMC higher because out of all those touches that he had over the past few years, last year he actually got a chance, even though he was injured, to kind of recuperate a little bit, and maybe he'd be a little more fresh here coming into the 2021 season.
Yeah, I agree with 100% with that. I mean, you could go CMC at the 1.01. You could go Dalvin Cook at the 1.01. I don't care. I think they're both great picks. Both of them are going to get work in the passing game. Both of them are going to get work on the ground. Really, the big thing for me in terms of, who's going to be a little bit better than the other one, I just feel like maybe the Vikings are a little bit more committed to the run than what the Panthers are. But I mean, it's like,
yeah. And Minnesota's offensive line has been slightly improved here over the offseason. So I mean that I don't hate Dalvin Cook at number 1 either. Number 3, we agree, and I'm pretty sure this is like across the board everywhere.
D-Train.
Yep, Derrick Henry here at number 3. We've said it in the past. I think you just said it in the quarterback video that he's probably the most consistent running back. And a lot of people want to say, oh, no, coming off all those touches over the past few years, I don't want anything to do with the guy. That is absolutely mind-boggling to me because if you're doing that, you're thinking that there's going to be regression, right? Well, he's coming off a 2,000-yard season. So for me, even if he regresses 600 yards, he's still getting 1,400 yards rushing. Mm-hmm. So I'll take that regression all day long. Last year was a little bit more of a cherry on top, a bonus, and he's just built differently. He can withstand all those carries where some of the smaller guys just can't.
I love me some Derrick Henry. I almost sneezed there, so I apologize if anyone thought I was getting ready to pass out.
It would have made for great video.
You said it was a cherry on top of your what?
I have no idea. At this point, I could have said anything. I'm sure it was inappropriate if I said it. Anyway, you have anything else for Derrick Henry?
I don't. He's a beast. He's not built like any other quarterback. If you're worried about regression,
he doesn't play quarterback though, so there's no quarterback.
Or running back.
Perfect.
He doesn't get hit by players. He hits players. I'm not worried about it.
Great. Number 4. I have Zeke Elliott at number 4. Everybody's off this bandwagon except for me, apparently. You have Nick Chubb, who I love to see. You have Nick Chubb higher than me. So we're going to talk about another player further down this list that we're both flip-flopped on that maybe will catch people off guard. But obviously we know we love Nick Chubb. We have loved Nick Chubb since he has entered the NFL. We have been on that bandwagon. They're arguably going to be the best running team behind one of the best offensive lines in football. They're going to be dedicated to him all year long. And Kareem Hunt does not worry me. We saw Nick Chubb be a top 12 running back last year, and he missed a quarter of the season. So I'm not worried about it whatsoever. Yep. For Zeke, people want to just forget about the fact that he lost Dak Prescott and his entire offensive line for the most part last year, and now they want to call him washed. Well, Dak Prescott is back and the offensive line is healthy. Give me some Zeke Elliott back here at number 4.
Yeah, I'm definitely not giving up on Zeke Elliott. Yes, I've got him a little bit lower, but I'm not going to be scared away from drafting him. And honestly, I don't have too much to say about Nick Chubb because I guarantee one of us are going to have him as a must-own running back this year. And that's where those numbers are going to get super juicy. So yeah. Those are the videos you want. You want them, Headliner Nation.
Okay, moving on to number 5 before it gets any more creepy. Let's see here. I have Saquon Barkley at number 5. I'm just going down the list of people that, they're hopping off the bandwagon. Nobody wants to trust Saquon Barkley anymore. He's injury prone, even though we talked to the doc here earlier in the week talking about the Saquon Barkley injury. You have Alvin Kamara at number 5, which I do not dislike whatsoever. For me, there's a few questions about Kamara just because we don't know exactly the quarterback split in New Orleans. For Saquon Barkley, he's coming back to a team that now has more offensive weapons than just himself. He's healthy. He can catch passes out of the backfield. He can take it 100 yards on any given play. Like he's that type of guy. And there's very few of those in the NFL. He may not be top 2, top 3 anymore for me, but I got him right here, number 5.
Yeah, I mean, for me with Alvin Kamara, this is me trying to speak it into existence. Yeah. If I rank Alvin Kamara at 5, it means Jameis Winston is going to be the starting quarterback. Listen, you might think that Alvin Kamara would be better with Taysom Hill. Safety wise, maybe he has a little bit of a higher floor with Taysom Hill, but his ceiling drops dramatically because if you look at the pass catching numbers under Taysom Hill last year, he disappeared. He was not any part of that passing game last year when Hill was under center. So that's my concern. If someone said I have Alvin Kamara more towards 7, 8, 9, if someone said I'd rather have Aaron Jones, I wouldn't disagree. If someone said I'd rather, have Chubb or have Barkley or Elliott, I wouldn't necessarily disagree.
Yeah, exactly. And I have him just a couple spots lower. At number 6, this is where I have Nick Chubb. We already touched on Nick Chubb. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to touch on anybody in our rankings. Number 6, this is where you have Saquon Barkley. And we'll just keep.
Don't say that.
I know, that's just awkward. I feel dirty. Number 7, this is where I have Alvin Kamara a couple spots lower. This is where you have Zeke Elliott. Players we've already touched on here already. Number 8, we agree on. It's Aaron Jones of the Green Bay Packers. Now, the one thing that is like the linchpin here of Aaron Jones is who is it? Is it Aaron Rodgers? Like, I'm hoping it's Aaron Rodgers, because if it's not Aaron Rodgers, we're in a world of hurt in Green Bay. I don't care who the other quarterback would be. I don't like it whatsoever.
I don't know if I hate that for Aaron Jones.
You don't?
I don't know if I do, because here's the thing. Even though the quarterback is obviously going to be different, you're still going to have Devontae Adams. It's not like it's,
but Jordan Love's got to get it to him.
Right. But still, even if Love has some issues getting it to Adams will still require some sort of eyes on him. And sometimes it could be double teams. And Robert Tonyan did enough last year that I think he is a legitimate threat over the middle of the field. I like Amari Rodgers. I think that they still have enough weapons there from keeping the box to being too stacked. So I don't know. I'm not saying that I like him more if Aaron Rodgers is not there. I just think his floor would come up with no Aaron Rodgers. I think the ceiling might be a little bit lower, but I think he could be safer.
I think the problem is Aaron Jones over the last few years has been somebody who's so efficient because he doesn't need the volume.
Right.
Because he puts up those big plays, and I think that's because of the potential that defenses are worried about Aaron Rodgers. I think the big play ceiling would come down with a Jordan Love under center. Nothing.
Right. Yeah. The big plays, some of those efficiency plays that we see from him. Yeah, that brings that ceiling down a little bit, but the potential for some more volume, I think that brings that floor up. So we're kind of shrinking that gap.
Speaking of shrinking a gap, let's talk about number 9. Because number 9, I have Joe Mixon, which is higher than you have Joe Mixon, which is absolutely crazy. So you have Chubb higher than me, and I have Mixon higher than you. You have Jonathan Taylor at number 9. Now, here's the thing for Joe Mixon. And I know we're both Mixon guys here. What are you doing?
Sorry, I can't keep my wood off screen.
Wow. Joe Mixon. We're talking about touches, right? We need touches.
We just talked about wood, and now we're talking about touches.
I'm trying to hold it together.
We've lost everybody. Show's over.
Show is basically over at this point.
YouTube just gave us an NC-17 rating.
Wow. Wouldn't surprise me. Number 9 here, Joe Mixon. Touches, volume, right? We need touches to score points. I'm trying so hard to focus right now. And Joe Mixon is in line to get a lot of touches because there's no Gio Bernard there. Am I worried about Samaje Perine? I'm really not. We're hoping that with those extra weapons on the outside with Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, that the boxes aren't stacked anymore, and that Joe Mixon's involved in the passing game, and he's getting 20 touches a week, and that's why I have him at number 9. You have Jonathan Taylor right here, who I have a few spots lower just because I don't know if I trust the Colts enough to not screw it up and include Marlon Mack or Nyheim Hines too much.
And I talked about it on the quarterback video where I turned these rankings in. I said, here's my rankings as of right now. I'm still doing research for other videos. And all of a sudden, boom, I'm finding stuff where I'm like, man, I could adjust my rankings easily. Definitely think JT could end up coming down. If you're looking in terms of upside, I think Cam Akers and Austin Ekeler could have a little bit more upside than Jonathan Taylor. So him falling a little bit for me, I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing by any means. I just think maybe some of that ceiling disappears. And you know what? You responded to somebody in the comments the other day about Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack. And someone was like, oh, that's absolutely ridiculous. If you're even considering Marlon Mack, they re-signed him. You think they re-signed a guy coming off an injury just for the hell of it? I mean, if they were looking for someone for depth, that they were just like, we're just going to bring this guy in to be, they're going to go sign someone that's been healthy. They're not going to bring Marlon Mack back. Is he going to be a running back 2 or 3 or even 4? No, he's not. Is he going to get 5 touches a game? Yes, but that's 5 less touches that go to Jonathan Taylor. If he gets 1 reception a game, that's 1 less reception that goes to Jonathan Taylor. He's not going to make a huge indent. He's going to bring that ceiling down a little bit. So that comment that you had back and forth with that dude a couple of times, I was like, I 100% get you. This guy obviously was sniffing some bath salts before he tried to converse with us, but that's a different story for a different time. Joe Mixon, there was not a running back in the league last year that had more touches per game. That's rushing attempts and catches than Joe Mixon before the Joe Burrow injury. The volume was 100% there. It was always there. You're going to get Joe Mixon in the 3rd round, and he's going to get like 300 touches this year.
I mean, and that's what it's all about. And that's why I have him higher as of right now, is because there's very few guys on this list that have the potential for 275 to 300 touches. He's one of them, and that's why I have him where I do. Number 10, this is where I have Austin Ekeler, who you just mentioned a second ago. You have Cam Akers. So the next 5 or so picks, we got the same type of names. They're just kind of in a different order. Yeah. Austin Ekeler in this offense in Los Angeles, you produced great. I mean, there was games where he was getting 10, 15 targets a game last year, and that's what it's all about. In half PPR rankings, that gives him that added little boost, in my opinion. We've seen him run between the tackles. We've seen him so involved in the passing game. Now they got Justin Herbert in his 2nd year with Keenan Allen on the outside still and Mike Williams. They may not give him huge volume, but then he falls into that Aaron Jones category we were talking about earlier, where if you can get this guy, he doesn't need 20. He needs 15 touches a week to have a solid fantasy floor, and I think he gets that easily. That's why I have him at 10, where you have Cam Akers.
Yeah, I mean, with Cam Akers, I mean, definitely I think that floor is a little bit better than Austin Ekeler just because he is going to get so many touches on the ground. I do think Darrell Henderson is still going to be used, but maybe he's a little bit more in the passing game. So again, it's that ceiling that I'm looking at that I'm saying maybe that ceiling comes down a little bit, but he's going to be a very safe pick this year. With Austin Ekeler, my hope for him is we see a return to his 2019 numbers. Like 2020, we were like, let's hope this guy takes a step forward and really becomes an all-around back. Well, that didn't happen, mostly because he missed 6 games. Mm-hmm. That's a big issue. However, he still had 116 rushing attempts last year. His yards per attempt went up. But if we can get him back to those 108 targets, which I think is more than doable in this Chargers offense, because they lost Hunter Henry and they didn't really bring anybody in that's like, oh my God, like this is a guy that we expect to get. Mike Williams is still going to be a guy that will get some targets, but not a ton. Jared Cook is going to get a few targets. Donald Parham at tight end might get a few targets. Obviously, Jalen Guyton, like these guys might get a few targets, but Austin Ekeler could very well be the number 2 target on this team last year. And if we go back to 2019 numbers where he doesn't necessarily take a step forward as a pass rush or as a rusher, the catches that he's going to have, oh my God, we're still looking at low end RB1 numbers and half PPR.
Yeah, 100%. For Cam Akers, I agree. I still think that they involved Darrell Henderson a little bit. It was a 3-headed monster last year. I can see it being a 2-headed one here this year. Number 11, this is where I have Jonathan Taylor, who we talked about. This is where you have Austin Ekeler. For me, number 12, I have him a little bit higher. I have CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire of the Kansas City Chiefs, who the consensus is way off on right now. I mean, I understand it 100%. This is where you have Joe Mixon also. But at number 12 for me, for CEH, we were hated a lot last year because we were telling people to avoid CEH.
Hated is not a strong enough word. Jake.
I mean, death threats over CEH. Like it happened. Like I'm not even joking. And we told people to avoid him because of exactly what happened last year. Now, did we foresee the Le'Veon Bell signing and stuff? No. But the whole reason the Le'Veon Bell signing happened is because of what we foresaw in the preseason. He just couldn't do a few of those things. They were involving Darrell Williams at times last year. But you have to remember, one of the main reasons we felt that way is he was going into an offense full of weapons with no offseason program and a difficult offense to learn. He needed time, and he didn't get it last year. This is going to be the start of good things, in my opinion, for CEH being in that offense. Everybody wanted to crown him a year early. He may not be top 5, but he's definitely top 12 for me, and that's why I have him sitting right here.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it perfectly. We even said it last year. We don't love him this year because of his ADP. Remember, Headliner Nation, listen, bring it in here real quick. We don't hate players. We hate ADP, okay? Clyde Edwards-Helaire last year, if you wanted him, you had to spend a mid-first round pick probably to get him, mid to late first round pick to get him. This year, you might be able to get him in the 3rd round. That's a lot better.
Mm-hmm. That's what it's all about. And that's a great thing to classify here. It's all about ADP because obviously the talent is there. We saw that on the field, coming out of the draft out of LSU. We know the talent is there, but it's all about that price and where risk and reward kind of just, cross each other. So yeah, this is where I think it finally starts to be a little bit better because the price is right. Number 13, I have a 2nd-year running back, J.K. Dobbins, who I absolutely love. You have a rookie running back in Najee Harris out of Pittsburgh. So that's interesting. We'll hear that in a second. For me, J.K. Dobbins in a run-first offense in Baltimore, probably going to run some of the most rushing plays in the entire NFL this year. And now there's no Mark Ingram there. It's him and Gus Edwards. He may not see 20 touches a game, but you give him 15 and you're going to be happy.
I do have Dobbins lower than you, but trust me, I would rather be extremely wrong on that ranking because I want to see this dude eat. Give him all the touches. Gus Edwards, I love you, man. I don't want you getting touches over J.K. Dobbins.
No.
For Najee Harris, for me, it's all about volume. I mean, I think we see the potential volume with him. If at any point in time does Roethlisberger's arm fall off, I mean, he might hand the ball off to Harris, and Harris takes off running down the field and realizes a minute later that he has the football and Roethlisberger's arm. Like it's still connected, and it just came off. That would not surprise me at all. Also, out of rookie minicamp, just a little bit of a tidbit sounded like, hey, we're going to be putting this guy out at the X. He's going to be going outside. We're going to try to kind of utilize him the same way like Le'Veon Bell was. He's not the pass catcher that Le'Veon Bell was. I don't see him making a huge impact out there, but moving him around is a good thing. I like it.
Agreed. And I have a couple spots lower here. We'll get to him in a second. For number 14, this is where I have Cam Akers. Talked about, a little worried about Darrell Henderson. That's why I have him a couple spots lower. This is where you have CEH is 14. So then we'll move on to 15, and it's Antonio Gibson, and we both agree here. 2nd-year running back in Washington. They didn't go out and draft anybody that's going to take any touches. J.D. McKissick in the backfield may still receive the majority of the pass work, which kind of limits that ceiling and probably why we have him in that top 15 range and not the top 12-ish range. If this dude was getting the pass work that J.D. McKissick sees, dear Lord, he would be inside the top 12. With Fitzmagic under center, is he going to be that gunslinger, throwing it down the field a little bit more at times? That's why we have him drop down a few spots, but there's no arguing that there's some serious talent in Washington here with Antonio Gibson.
Well, I think the one thing, too, that we saw from Antonio Gibson last year was his ability to score, right? At one point in time, it was like if he got the ball in the red zone, it was like this dude's going to score. I mean, it just felt automatic. So we know he's going to get those touches. We know he's going to get those high scoring touches, which is like those red zone touches. But like you said, they have some guys that fit into that pass catching role. And even though Gibson will see some of that, he's going to lose those touches. And that, I mean, people are like, oh, this guy's not going to make an impact. We're not saying go out and draft JD McKissick. We're just saying, that's just a guy that can take away some points from Antonio Gibson.
Yep, exactly. Number 16, this is where I have DAndre Swift of the Detroit Lions. This is where you have J.K. Dobbins, who we've already talked about. For DAndre Swift, for me, I said this already once, and I'm going to say it, and you're a Lions fan, so this is, we're real talking here. I don't trust your Lions to not screw this up either.
I don't either.
I mean, he deserves to get 20 touches a game. He needs 20 to 25 touches a game. But then they go out and they sign Jamal Williams, and then they drafted Jamar Jefferson. And I just don't trust I can't put my faith in the Lions enough to not mess up DAndre Swift, because this is the guy. I mean, this guy could easily be top 10 if he was given the full workload.
It's not that I don't trust the Lions, which I don't. It's that DAndre Swift is not a draft pick of the new regime.
Yep.
And then the new regime goes out and signs Jamal Williams, who's a pretty damn good running back. I mean, there's a lot of people who are like, Jamal Williams isn't going to make.
He's good.
Yes, he is. He's going to get touches. He's going to get a decent amount of touches. He's probably not going to be fantasy viable most weeks, but he's going to get enough that it makes DAndre Swift a headache every single week. My fear is that the new regime just doesn't feel the same way about Swift as the last one, or some of us do.
Yep. And Jamal Williams is able to catch passes out of the backfield. I don't know how many times Detroit's out there with the lead where they're pounding the rock with DAndre Swift or anything. I don't see that a whole lot.
They won't lead any game at all this year, I don't think.
It may be one, maybe two. So yeah, that's why I have him at 16. You have him at 17, one spot lower. 17 is where I have Najee Harris. I totally agree with what you said, the volume-wise. It's going to be there. Their offensive line is really the only reason why I've dropped them down. And because they have so many pass-catching weapons, that's as long as his arm stays attached, like you said, they're going to throw the ball quite a bit. Number 18, I have David Montgomery, Chicago Bears. This is where you have, what are we calling this dude now? Because there's a picture circulating of his quads that everybody wants to talk about all of a sudden. Mike Davis, running back of the Atlanta Falcons. And everybody's all of a sudden drooling because the dude's quads are huge. I mean, newsflash, people. Most running backs in the NFL have big quads. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like,
I have big quads.
I do too, but I'm not an NFL running back, and they're not as muscular. But they're
Should I show mine right now?
You should not.
Okay.
We'll talk about David Montgomery here for a second. He ended 2020 on an absolute tear. One of the best running backs in all of fantasy football. But you have to remember, Tariq Cohen is back healthy now. How do they incorporate him? Plus, they signed Damian Williams in the offseason. Now, David Montgomery should be the guy here.
I hate you, Matt Nagy.
I hate you, Matt Nagy. I agree. There's a lot of unknown with David Montgomery now, and you have to be careful that you don't pay the 2020 price in 2021. But for Mike Davis in Atlanta, I understand it. There's really no other options there. I don't have Mike Davis in my top 25, but he very easily could slot somewhere in that 20 to 25 range.
The reason I'm not going to give you much information on Mike Davis, Headliner Nation, is because there is going to be one heck of a write-up on the DRBR, the Dynamic Running Back Rating, in the draft guide that explains to you why Mike Davis, at this point for me, this 18 ranking, might even be a little too low for me.
That's spicy. I kind of like that. I haven't even seen it yet.
He might even be a must-have running back too. We'll see.
Oh, wow. As of right now, he's not even my top 25. So
and as far as David Montgomery, I have him at 19, so I have him a spot behind you. I hope Matt Nagy takes a football to the face this year. Not like break his nose and bleeding all over the place.
Like black eye.
Just like an upside the head. Just like, who did that? And I hope it's Justin Fields that does it to him.
I like that. Number 19. So you said you had David Montgomery there. This is where I have Miles Sanders. The Philadelphia Eagles, you have him one spot lower right here at number 20. So we're super close on Miles Sanders. Another one of those teams, though, that I just don't trust. Like, they just continue to add running backs there. And why? Like, why do you continually add running backs behind Miles Sanders and refuse to give him the volume? We said it last year. When Jalen Hurts took over this team under center, we were excited about Miles Sanders because of the RPO possibilities in this offense that could open up some big running lanes for Miles Sanders. And then we saw some big plays. And then they went out and signed 34 and a half RB4s, basically, to back him up. That I'm sure they're going to give touches throughout the season. That's why he's dropped way down the rankings. It's just I don't have that warm fuzzy on him.
Yeah, I mean, I have Miles Sanders at 20, and that half a running back you're talking about is Kerryon Johnson.
Exactly. Only one knee.
Yeah, his knees.
Yeah, exactly. Well stated. So, yeah, you have him at 20. That's where I have Kareem Hunt, Cleveland Browns. He's just somebody that is not going to go out and put up huge numbers weekly. Like unless there's an injury to Nick Chubb, you're not going to see huge, consistent games from Kareem Hunt. But what you're going to see is 10 to 12 points a week. And that's super solid. It's a great flex option with that huge ceiling. He is a handcuff that has weekly upside that you can start at any given time at a flex spot. So that's why I have him right here at 20. You have Miles Sanders.
Yeah, and then, Kareem Hunt, I agree. I have him at 25, so I have him a little bit lower. It's just one of those things where, you might get if he scores a couple of touchdowns, you might get, a top 10 performance. If he doesn't score a touchdown or two, you're going to get, a top 32 performance. He's a guy you can probably flex and be okay with it every single week. I will tell you right now, number 21 and 23, Myles Gaskin and James Conner. I'm also not going to talk a whole lot about them and save some time. Why? Because the DRBR right up on these guys is going to be extra sexy.
Oh, wow.
Year.
Look at that. Look at you teasing it. So, 21, that's where you have Myles Gaskin. I have Melvin Gordon. I loved Melvin Gordon a lot more before the draft. Yeah. And then they went and they took Javonte Williams, who I like me some Javonte Williams. Oh, yeah. And there's still going to be a split in this backfield now. There was always going to be somebody else in the mix. But I was hoping it wouldn't be somebody with such high draft capital with so much talent, so that Melvin Gordon could still be one of those guys that could potentially see 250 touches. I don't know if he gets there. It's going to be tough. So I have him at 21. 22, you have Chris Carson. This is where I have Myles Gaskin, so we're not totally different on Myles Gaskin. He's another guy who escaped the draft unscathed for the most part. Chris Carson for you there. I have Chris Carson one spot lower at 23, so we're right in line there. We do expect him to run the ball more in Seattle. But do they involve just Chris Carson, or is it more of a committee-style approach to really pound the rock on a weekly basis? Because Chris Carson isn't exactly known for staying healthy. So they got to have some type of split in there, otherwise he'll be injured by week 4.
Yeah, and before Penny tore his ACL,
mm-hmm.
he was making an impact. They were doing a concentrated effort to get him more involved.
Yep, agreed. So 23 is where I have Carson. That's where you have James Conner, and you have some sexiness coming up on James Conner. Wow, oh, yeah. That's nice.
Let's just say this: Chase Edmonds truthers, you might just want to calm down a little bit. Okay, don't. Yeah. If you've popped a Viagra recently, Chase Edmonds owners, you're gonna have to go to the hospital. Okay?
Yeah, you're gonna just be sitting there holding Chubb for a while. 24, I have Josh Jacobs. You have him just outside your top 25, but for Josh Jacobs, he takes a massive hit with the addition of Kenyon Drake. He's somebody who could creep up maybe a spot or two, depending on some things that happen here remainder of the offseason, but he can't stay healthy either. That's why they brought in Kenyon Drake. Does Kenyon Drake take whatever passing work is available? That's another question mark why we have him drop down, but this is where you have Melvin Gordon also.
And don't forget, the Raiders' offensive line right now is worse than your toilet after a bag of White Castle.
That's bad. It's bad.
Yeah.
Like they all left this offseason. They all just said deuces. They out. Lastly, 25, that's where I have James Conner. This is where you have Kareem Hunt, a couple guys we've already talked about. But yeah, I agree. James Conner has the potential in this offense. He has top 12 potential, in my opinion, in this offense. If they give him 18 touches a week.
Not season-long top 12 potential, but like weekly top 12 potential, I believe. So, yeah, there are some weeks where if they get a decent lead, James Conner stays healthy, he's going to have some pretty big weeks.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. But, yeah, those are the running back rankings, but we want to make sure we're keeping the community involved. We've seen here over the past few days, past few weeks, Kyle's got the round of 64, the bracket challenges going on. We want to involve the community, right? So make sure you're checking out our community tab because there's people voting on polls almost every day at this point. So make sure you go in and participate in that. And then let us know down below in the comment section about the rankings, right? Don't get butthurt off May rankings. It's not worth it. Let's all talk together and try to come up with the best possible rankings we can get so we can all win some trophies this year. Because that's what it's all about, Kyle, is winning some ships up in here.
We are the champions.
Why do you keep singing?
My friends.
I feel like every show you're singing, and I feel like I need to get rid of my earbuds. All right. Well, hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. I'm gonna cut it. We're done.